My wife said I was too average after I helped raise her kids, so I took my name off everything and watched her life collapse. Without me, I've never been flashy or rich, but I've always been steady. The kind of guy who shows up early, holds the door open, remembers birthdays. My whole life, people have said you're the kind of man women say they want, until they don't. I never thought much of it until Marissa. We met at a local food drive. She was laughing with an older woman about how her mashed potatoes could feed an army. I was restocking canned soup, quietly watching her glow. She had this presence warm, chaotic, beautiful. I didn't even know she had kids until our third conversation, when she mentioned needing to leave early to tuck them in. Her ex, she said, was a ghost. He never showed up for anything, she told me, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. You seem different. That was the first time someone made my steadiness feel like something more than just boring. Within 6 months, I was reading bedtime stories, coaching her son's soccer team, and teaching her daughter how to ride a bike. I stopped going on fishing trips with my buddies and started meal prepping school lunches. We weren't legally married yet, but in every other way we were a family, and I was proud of that. One evening, while tucking her daughter into bed, she looked up and whispered, "Are you going to be here forever?" I smiled and said, "As long as you want me." I didn't realize how heavy that promise would become, because the thing about being steady is, people start to assume you'll never leave. They stop appreciating what it means to stay. And sometimes, they even start resenting you for it. But I didn't know that yet, not then. Not when I still believed that love meant being the anchor. When Marissa said she wanted to start her own business, I didn't hesitate. She'd always had an eye for style-thrifted outfits, DIY crafts, handmade soaps. So when she talked about launching an online boutique, I told her, let's do it. I'll handle the bills, you focus on building your dream. And I meant it. I picked up extra shifts, cut back on personal spending, even cashed out an old savings account I'd been building since my 20s. Every dollar went into her business. Our living room turned into a war zone of packaging tape and ring lights. She was always filming TikToks, writing captions, organizing inventory. I'd come home, step over shipping boxes, and head straight into cooking dinner while helping the kids with homework. I told myself this was just a phase, a grind. It would all pay off. Your support means everything to me, she whispered one night as we collapsed into bed, both of us exhausted. I couldn't do this without you. I kissed her forehead, thinking, this is what building a life together looks like. But slowly, things started to shift. She began talking about her brand, her goals, her future. When I asked how we were doing financially, she'd brush it off. It's fine, you wouldn't get it. Business stuff. Her boutique was gaining traction, brand deals, sponsorships, a growing social following. And the more successful she became, the more I felt like background noise at a family gathering. Someone asked her how she balanced work and parenting. She laughed and said, "It's all me. I'm the multitasking queen." I was standing 5 feet away, plate in hand, heart sinking. Still, I told myself, she's just overwhelmed. It's the stress talking. I didn't know it yet, but I wasn't building our dream anymore. I was just financing hers. It started with subtle compliments that didn't feel like compliments. "You're so grounded," she'd say while rolling her eyes at influencer drama. Or, "I love how simple you, Rue. Don't need attention." At first, I took it as praise. I didn't crave the spotlight. I wasn't flashy. I was the guy who showed up, handled things, made life smoother. But over time, those compliments started to feel like reminders. Not of what she loved about me, but of what I lacked. Marissa's boutique really started to take off. Local magazines featured her. A stylist from LA reached out for a collab. Her phone never stopped buzzing. Ms. Orders. Followers. She got glammed up for every live stream while I sat in sweatpants, balancing our budget on the dining table. One night, after a particularly busy weekend, I said, "You've been killing it lately. Maybe we can take a break and go somewhere just us." She didn't even look up. "You don't get it. I can't just disappear like you do. This is a brand now. A real one." I didn't know what to say to that. I wasn't disappearing. I was keeping the house clean, feeding the kids, making sure the laundry didn't pile up. I was keeping the gears turning so she could shine. Then came the comment that stuck in my chest like a splinter. We were getting ready for bed when she muttered, half laughing, you know, "Sometimes I wish you had more drive. You're amazing with the kids, but what?" I asked. She shrugged. "I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you're too average." There it was. That word again. Average. It echoed through my skull as I stared at the ceiling that night. Wondering when being enough stopped being enough, I told myself it was just a bad day. But deep down, I knew this was the beginning of something worse. Her boutique's 1-year anniversary felt like a bigger deal than our wedding. She rented out a rooftop venue, invited influencers, photographers, even a food truck with her logo on the side. I spent the day hauling supplies and setting up tables while she rehearsed her speech. I wasn't jealous. I was proud. I thought, we built this. The kids wore matching outfits I picked out. I made sure the playlist was perfect. At one point, she walked up in a white jumpsuit, glowing under the fairy lights, and whispered, "Thank you for doing all this." I smiled. Told her she deserved it, and then it happened. She clinked a glass and gave this emotional speech. About her journey about building a brand from scratch as a single mom, about resilience, about the power of believing in yourself. Cheered, toasted to her. Then she gestured toward me and said, "And of course, to the best stepdad anyone could ask for." Step. Not my partner, not my husband, not the man who paid for the laptop, the inventory, the shipping materials, the lighting, the rent. Just the help. A few people gave me a polite nod. Others glanced away, unsure if they should clap. That night, I didn't say anything. I helped load the leftover cupcakes into the car. I drove the kids home. I washed the dishes while she counted tips from the merch table. When she finally looked up, I asked quietly, "Is that really how you see me?" She didn't even flinch. "What are you talking about?" "At the party?" "The speech," she shrugged. "You are a great stepdad. Why are you being so sensitive?" I walked out onto the porch and sat there for hours listening to the crickets. It hit me then, I wasn't her partner. I was just another piece of her brand, and brands can be reneged. After that night, something inside me shifted, quietly, permanently. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just stopped. Stopped fixing the little things before they broke. Stopped volunteering for every school pickup and bake sale. Stopped suggesting movie nights and weekend hikes. Instead, I watched, listened, waited, and she didn't notice. She was too busy lining up brand partnerships, posting mompreneur content, and tagging hashtag self-made in every caption. The house grew louder with ring lights and product hauls, and quieter between us. Her followers soared. Her patience with me. One evening, while sorting bills, I saw it. The car title still had my name. The Business LLC. I was the one who filed it. Utilities? All me. I'd spent so long making sure she felt supported. I didn't realize how much I'd legally absorbed. And that's when it clicked. If I was to average for her world, then maybe it was time she got to live in it without me. I started with small steps, contacted my lawyer friend, opened a separate checking account, reviewed every document I'd signed in the last 3 years. I wasn't plotting revenge. I was reclaiming my footing. One night, while she was live streaming a skincare routine, I stood in the hallway just watching. She smiled into the camera, called herself unstoppable, and ended with, "Ladies, never depend on a man." I thought, you're right, because the man you don't value is the man you don't get to keep. I walked back to our bedroom and opened the old lockbox under the bed, pulled out every receipt, every lease, every file with both our names. Asterisk, she had no idea that the steady, silent man she called average was already halfway out the door. There's a strange kind of peace that comes from being underestimated. While Marissa prepped for a new product launch, I was prepping for an exit. But not the dramatic kind, no shouting matches, no door slamming, just signatures, transfers, and cold, clean detachment. First, I filed to have the LLC ownership changed fully to her. She didn't even read the email. Just clicked "Thanks, babe," with a heart emoji. Then I transferred the car into her name. She was thrilled. "I knew I'd manifest a luxury vehicle one day," she said, posing for Instagram next to the car I paid off. I nodded. You earned it. Maybe in a twisted way she had. Next came the utilities, the joint accounts. The website domain I had registered for her when the boutique was just an idea on a crumpled napkin. I revoked admin access, created a new one in her name, then deleted myself from the system entirely. One click at a time, each night. I'd lie next to her, staring at the ceiling, wondering how long it would take before she realized she was alone in the empire she built on my back. One morning, over coffee, she asked, "Why are you being so chill lately? You used to stress about everything." I looked at her and smiled. "I'm just learning to let go," she laughed. "Maybe you're finally getting it." I was. Because when someone tells you you're too average, what they're really saying is, they think you're safe to ignore. But I was never weak. I was just quiet. And now, I was done handing over pieces of myself to someone who only saw me as a stepping stone. Every signature felt like freedom. Every deleted login felt like closure. She thought she was rising on her own. She never noticed the ground beneath her was starting to disappear. 3 months later, the cracks started to show. Her supplier dropped her. Latent voices. A shipping delay ruined her seasonal launch. I watched her pacing the kitchen in fuzzy slippers, yelling into her phone, blaming lazy assistants and algorithm sabotage. But there were no assistants. There was no algorithm. There was just her and the reality of running a business without someone quietly holding the foundation together, babe. "Can you help me sort through the refund requests?" She asked one night, panic under her breath. "I thought I didn't get business stuff," I said, sipping my tea. She didn't reply. The kids started noticing too. Their lunch boxes were missing snacks. Laundry piled up. Her son asked if I could come to his school. Place said Mom forgot to RSVP. I went, "Of course." Front row. Recorded the whole thing. Marissa showed up halfway through, still in a branded hoodie and full makeup, muttering about traffic. At dinner, I told her gently, "You're dropping too many balls." She snapped, "I can't be everything to everyone. Maybe if I had more support, I cut in. "You mean like managing bills, picking up the kids, and running the back end of your business while being called to average?" Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. She didn't say anything, just stared, like she was finally starting to understand that my absence wasn't a phase. It was permanent, but I wasn't done. I had kept detailed. Records, emails, screenshots, contracts, not out of spite, but because I knew this would happen. I knew she'd start slipping the moment. There was no one to clean up after her silent chaos. The boutique was still standing, but barely. And she didn't know it yet, but the storm was just beginning. Because the man she thought would never leave had already erased himself from her foundation. Now she was trying to build on dust. I didn't go looking for it. It found me. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, Marissa left her laptop open on the couch. I wasn't snooping. I was reaching for the remote when her screen lit up an email from someone named Jay. The subject line read, "You deserve someone on your level." I froze. My gut told me not to look. But my heart was already thudding like a war drum. I clicked. Dozens of messages. Late night flirting. Business talk laced with "wish you were here and you get me like no one else does." Turns out Jay was her new business mentor, someone she'd met during a podcast interview. He was charming, wealthy, visionary, and apparently everything I wasn't. One message stuck like a dagger. "He's sweet, but he's not a partner. He's a placeholder. I need someone who makes me feel electric." I stared at those words for what felt like hours. Not because I didn't believe them, but because they confirmed everything I had been too loyal to admit. I didn't rage. I didn't confront. I did what I always did, documented. Screenshots, backups, emails, and then I forwarded the entire thread to her. Primary investor who just happened to be a friend of mine from my corporate days. A man who trusted her because I vouched for her an hour later. Got a text from him. Wow, thank you for the heads up. I'm pulling out. Marissa didn't know yet. She was upstairs, humming, posting an inspirational quote about real queens. Fix each other's crowns. The irony was suffocating. Her betrayal wasn't just personal. It was professional. It was calculated. But what she didn't realize was she hadn't just disrespected me. She'd played herself out of the very game. I helped her build, and when the floor finally gave out beneath her, she wouldn't even know who pulled the rug. It all came crashing down in the span of a week. First, her investor ghosted her. No explanation. Just a single unread message with a scene tag that never turned blue again. Then her PayPal account got flagged for dispute reviews customers demanding refunds for items that were never delivered. A fulfillment error she used to blame on shipping delays. Now, fully exposed by angry buyers in her comments, the brand she built on curated perfection started to rot in public. I came home one evening to find her, pacing the living room, mascara smeared, a wine glass in one hand and her phone in the other. I need you to help me fix this, she said. No greeting, no apology, just panic. I looked around. Boxes everywhere. Half-filled orders. Dirty dishes in the sink. Laundry spilling over onto the couch. This isn't my mess to fix anymore, I replied. You can't be serious, she snapped. I've given everything to this. I stepped closer. Calm. Controlled. No, I said. I gave everything to this. You just took credit for it. She went quiet, and then, like a mask peeling off, the desperation showed. You can't just leave me with nothing, she whispered. That's when I dropped it. I already did. I handed her the final envelope, the paperwork confirming. I'd removed my name from the lease, from the business, from everything. I was no longer legally tied to her or the boutique. Her eyes widened. But the lease, the business account, the domain, ... All yours now, I said. Exactly what you wanted. She collapsed onto the couch, hand trembling, his phone clattering to the floor, and I just stood there for the first time in years, feeling nothing. No rage. No heartbreak. Just a hollow kind of freedom. She'd wanted independence so badly. And now, for the first time, she finally had it. The fall wasn't loud. It was slow, embarrassing, public. Within days, screenshots of her texts with Jay leaked onto a local gossip page. Someone she had hired, probably underpaid Mustav, sold them. Her loyal followers turned on her overnight. Comment sections filled with things like, "So this is the empowered queen you looked up to?" Imagine disrespecting the man who built your foundation. Can't build a kingdom on borrowed bricks. Her business plummeted. Brands cut ties. Her influencer friends. Radio silent. She posted a long reflection video full of vague accountability. I've made mistakes. I'm growing. This is part of my journey. No names. No honesty. Just a performance. The comments weren't buying it. People could smell the rot. I was back at work by then, real job, steady pay. The kids stayed with me most days. Not by court order, just by choice. They said they liked the quiet, the calm. The normal one afternoon, her son looked up at me while doing homework and asked, "Are you still going to come to my graduation if Mom's not invited?" I said, "I'll always show up for you." That's who I'd always been. The man who showed up, Marissa tried to file for some kind of financial relief, but I had the documents. Everything signed, dated, notarized. She was on her own, fully. I never said a word about her affair. Never humiliated her publicly. I didn't need to. The universe handled that part for me. I didn't watch her spiral with joy. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. She thought I was her safety net, her quiet backup plan, her average placeholder. But when that net disappeared, she had nothing left to catch her. And maybe that's what pride does in the end. Convinces you you'll never fall. Until you do. It started with a text. "Hey, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I miss our family." I didn't respond. 2 days later, a longer message came. Apologies, regrets, a bullet-pointed breakdown of everything she did wrong. I was selfish, she wrote. You were the glue, and I didn't even see it. Then the kicker. I don't expect to be forgiven, but I'd give anything to try again. Asterisk. I sat with it for a while. Not because I was tempted, but because of how strange it felt to see the truth written out. By the person who once dismissed it, she asked to meet for closure, for conversation, for the kids' sake. I agreed, at a diner halfway between our places. She looked worn down. No makeup, hoodie sleeves, pulled over chipped nails. The shine was gone. I ruined everything, didn't I? She said, eyes locked on her coffee. I didn't nod. I didn't comfort. I just said, you treated me like a tool, not a partner. You didn't ruin everything. You just lost what held it together, she cried. Whispered, I didn't know what I had. I nodded this time. No, you did. You just didn't care. The waitress dropped the check. I paid, left cash on the table, and stood up. I forgive you, I said, watching her flinch. But forgiveness doesn't mean reunion. I walked out without looking back. It wasn't about punishing her. It was about protecting the version of myself I had finally reclaimed. The man who no longer begged to be seen, who no longer sacrificed everything to be enough. She got her independence. I got my peace, and there was no going back to a place that only knew how to break me. I used to think love meant holding on no matter what. No matter the silence, no matter the disrespect, no matter how many times I was pushed aside and called steady, like it was a flaw instead of a gift. But I learned something. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away quietly. Now I live in a smaller house. Nothing fancy, just clean walls, calm mornings, and real peace. I wake up without the tension in my chest, the kind that used to live there from pretending everything was okay. I take the kids out for pancakes on Saturdays. We laugh more. They don't walk on eggshells anymore. I kept the old journal I started back when she launched her boutique. Notes, plans, logistics, my invisible fingerprints on everything she built. I flipped through it the other day, and instead of bitterness, I felt clarity. She didn't ruin me. She revealed me, revealed the parts of myself I kept burying just to make someone else shine. Revealed how little I'd been seen, even while doing everything. Revealed that being average in her eyes was really just being consistent hand. She didn't know how to value that. The boutique never recovered. She started another Instagram account with inspirational quotes and soft-filtered selfies. Her captions talk about healing from toxicity. I don't comment. I don't engage. I don't even care. Because this story isn't about her anymore. It's about the man who finally chose himself. The man who realized that if you're the foundation holding everyone else up, you have every right to stop carrying the weight of someone who keeps stomping on you. I wasn't average. I was extraordinary. And the moment I stopped proving my worth was the moment I finally saw it.